Hey, Home Church, welcome to our weekly online service. We're glad you could jump on here and keep track of what's going on here at Home Church. We hope to see you back on campus soon, but if you can't, this is a great way for you to keep up with what's happening here at home. This month, we are in our sermon series titled Ripples, and we're looking at what can happen from a small action and how a small action can change everything. Today, we're going to look at how your decisions can change the atmosphere, and the stand that you take could give someone else the courage to stand as well. We see that happen quite a bit, where one person takes a stand and other people will then stand with them, even though those people didn't want to stand by themselves at first. Once one person does, other people will. Today, we're going to go to the book of Daniel. And in chapters 1 and 2, we see that Babylon has taken over Jerusalem. And Daniel, who is a young boy, is taken as a slave. But he finds a position of power because he's able to interpret a dream that King Nebuchadnezzar has. So, as part of that, Daniel makes a request. And in chapter 2, verse 49, it says, "Moreover, at Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego administrators over the province of Babylon, while Daniel himself remained at the royal court." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego find positions of power because of Daniel's help. Daniel found some good favor, and he brought his friends along for the ride with them. So leading up to the story that we're going to talk about today, the events that we're going to talk about, King Nebuchadnezzar has a golden statue made. And then he made a decree that whenever people hear all of these instruments, or instruments of any kind, that they're supposed to fall down and worship the statue. Now, you and I know that isn't going to set well with God's children. It shouldn't set well with God's children. And in Daniel 3, 8 through 12, we see a plot against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego because this decree that the king had made did not set well with God's children. It says, "At this time, some astrologers came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, 'May the king live forever.' So let's butter the king up before we even get started. 'Oh, king, we want you to live forever. You're the greatest. You're the greatest king we've ever had. We want you to live forever. So let's butter him up.' And then they said, 'Your Majesty has issued a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipe, and all kinds of music must fall down and worship the image of gold, and that whoever does not fall down and worship will be thrown into a blazing furnace.' And the king is like, 'Yeah, that's it. That's the decree I made.' And then they say, 'But there are some Jews that you have set over the affairs of the province of Babylon.' They kind of pull what Adam pulled with God. When Adam and Eve sinned and God came and he asked Adam, 'Why did you do this?' Adam said, 'Well, that woman that you gave me, she did this, and she made me sin.' And so the astrologers come to the king and they say, 'There's some Jews that you have put over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They paid no attention to you, your majesty. They neither serve your gods nor worship the image of gold that you have set up.' So they start off by buttering the king up and, 'Oh, king, may you live forever. Oh, but by the way, king, these guys don't listen to you. They don't pay attention to you. They don't serve your gods or worship the image of gold that you have set up.' In Daniel 3, 13 through 15, it says, 'Furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king. And Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold that I've set up?" Is it true that you don't worship my gods? Is it true that you don't follow the orders that I've given that you're supposed to bow down and worship? Well, he said, now, when you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipe, or all kinds of music, if you're ready to fall down and worship the image I made, well, very good. We'll be fine. We'll let this go and we'll move forward. Oh, but if you do not worship it, you will be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. And then he asks a question. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? The most important thing about this verse and this question is in the word God, the little g. He's talking about a God that they believe in, the rain god, the moon god, the sun god, all the different gods that they believe in. Which one of those gods will be able to rescue you from my hand? He gives them a chance. Hey, if you're ready to do this, well, then that's good. We'll move on past this. But if you're not, what God will be able to rescue you? Now, he asks a bold question, and he gets a bold answer in verses 16 through 18. It says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied. Not just one of them. All three of them replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. Now, that's a bold strategy. If I'm driving down the road and I get pulled over for speeding and I go to court and the court says, well, how do you plead to this? If I stand up and say, well, Judge, I don't need to defend myself before you in this matter, it's probably not going to turn out well for me. But that's exactly how they answered King Nebuchadnezzar, knowing that this guy had a temper. It says, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God, capital G, that we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. Now, we can look at this, and today we say, well, this kind of sounds like a name it and claim it thing, like they're telling God what God's going to do. But I think what these three understood was even if the king took their life, they knew what was next for them. And the king could not take that away from them. So their God would deliver them from the king's hand, because either they're going to walk away from the furnace or they're going to walk into eternity with God. One way or another, they're going to be delivered. And this next verse is maybe part of one of my favorite verses in the entire Bible. But even if he doesn't, go back to that previous scripture. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hands. But even if he doesn't, we want you to know, your majesty, we will not serve your gods, and we will not worship the image of gold that you have set up. Hey, king, listen. The God we serve is able, and we think he will. In one way or another, he's going to deliver us. But even if he doesn't, even if we have to go into the furnace, we will not serve your gods. We will not worship the image that you've set up, because that's not who we worship. That's not who we serve. This is a bold answer. They said, our God is able, but even if he doesn't. That's a great answer to the king's questions. What God will be able to save? Well, our God can save us. He's able. But even if he doesn't, I'm not going to serve that God. I'm not going to worship that statue, because I serve and I worship the one true God, the God who created everything we see, the God who puts everything into motion. That God, that's who I serve. Daniel 3:19 tells us a little something about Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, I said he's kind of got a temper. It says, then Nebuchadnezzar was furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and his attitude toward them changed. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times hotter than usual. This is something that we need to understand. When we take a stand for God, when we take a stand for Jesus in this life, people's attitudes are going to change towards us. Just like it says, King Nebuchadnezzar's attitude changed towards Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When you take a stand, it will cause some people's attitude to change towards you. And that's okay. We need to learn right now to be okay with that. Just because their attitude changes towards us certainly doesn't mean we were wrong. In fact, most of the time, it probably means we were right. If you know the story, you know what happens. Nebuchadnezzar ordered the three boys to be tied up and thrown into the furnace. It says they were wearing their turban, their robe, their trousers. And they were thrown into the furnace. And it was so hot that it killed the men who threw them into the furnace. That's pretty hot. That you don't even have to be in the fire to be killed by it. Just get close enough. But they threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, and it killed the men who threw them in. And in Daniel 3:24 and 25, it says, Then King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet. He leapt to his feet in amazement, and he asked his advisors, Weren't there three men that we tied up and threw into the furnace? And they weren't going to disagree with him. They replied, Certainly, Your Majesty. Hey, guys, didn't we just throw three in there? We tied up Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego. We tied them up. We bound them in. We threw them in, right? Three guys. Oh, certainly. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. And then 25, he said, Look, I see four men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed. And that fourth one looks like a son of the gods. He can't believe what he's seeing. I know we threw three in, and the people that threw them in are dead. But those guys, they're up walking around, and there's four of them. And there's something about that fourth one. He's not like the rest of them. For the rest of the story, the king calls them out of the fire. It says their clothes were not burnt. Their hair was not even singed. Their clothes did not even smell like smoke, even though they had been in the fire. And the king's attitude changed again. And then we see a new decree given. King Nebuchadnezzar said, Praise be to the God, capital G now, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Praise be to their God. This God delivered them from the furnace. He delivered them from my hand. Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then, he's got a temper. He says, anybody who says anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're going to be cut into pieces, and their houses will be turned into piles of rubble. He takes it pretty far. But hey, praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And don't you say anything bad against that God, or we're going to cut you up into pieces, and we're going to turn your house into rubble. And then he makes a statement at the end of this. He says, no other God, little g, again, can save in this way. And King Nebuchadnezzar probably never made a more accurate statement in his entire life. No other God can save in this way. We serve a mighty God. We serve a powerful God. And there's no other God who can take care of us the way our God can. Today, here's the question. Where did it start? Where did the ripple start in this event? And most people would say the ripple started with the even if he doesn't statement that they made. But I think it started way before that. To me, I think it started right when they heard the instruments start playing, and everybody around them started bowing down and worshiping this golden statue. And they looked around and they said, I don't think so. I'm not going to bow down. I'm not going to worship that statue. I'm not going to serve those gods. I serve the one true God. And they refused to bow down and worship the statue. The question is, today, will you take a stand and start the ripple? Because the stand that you take might give somebody else courage to take a stand as well. Somebody may be waiting on you to take a stand, and they will stand beside you. Take a stand, start the ripple, and see what happens. Hey, we love you. We hope to see you soon. Have a good week.